All right, broski, it's T and I'm back with another video. It's Greg Doucette, and you know I did this video already. Joe Frazier lost all his gains. All right, let's hear what Greg Doucette's excuse is why he lost all his gains. More proof Joe Frazier lost all his gains. Okay, what's the proof? Prove it.
Imagine if he showed his future physique, the physique he has right now, when he was back in his days of weighing only 50 kilograms and said, you know what, that is how you're going to look. He would have blown his mind. He would have said, wow, are you kidding? I'll eventually look like that? But yet he achieves that physique, and it's not nearly good enough. Coach Greg, in today's video, Joe Frazier has lost all of his gains. Now,
yes, he did. He has lost all of his fake gains, and I'll prove that it's fake. Let's hear what Greg has to say.
I'm sure he's exaggerating a little, but is he not about...
He's not exaggerating. He lost it all.
20 years of age? Has he not been training since he was a teenager? And I want you all to know that you don't just suddenly lose all of your gains. I've speculated...
Yes, you do if they're fake, Greg. You do lose all of them if they're fake.
In the past that he ended up taking PEDs. I do not think that he's been continuously natural throughout his lifting
No, he's not taking PEDs. You're lying. You're making that up.
career. I believe that at the
To him, everybody's on PEDs.
start, he was 100% natural, and that the pressure of social media got to him, and that he perhaps took something. I'm not going to say what it was, but I do believe he took something to enhance his gains. He had an incredible physique, and honestly, he still does. But he doesn't have as much muscle as he once had.
This was me about 7 years ago.
He's lying to you, man. That this guy's on PEDs and he lost all his gains because it was PEDs. He never had any real gains to begin with. I can prove it. It's right here. This is one thing Greg is all hiding from all of you. It's called Myonuclear Domain size limit. Greg is hiding this from you. MND size has a ceiling limit during hypertrophic process, beyond which extra nuclei are donated by satellite cell to support further muscle growth. Yeah, it's beyond that. Why? Because it stopped at the age of 15. But you do get one more of this ceiling limit when you go to a gym the very first time, when you're an untrained person going to the gym. I can prove that too. But what gains did he lose? I'll tell you the gains that he lost. They're sarcoplasmic. Basically, sarcoplasmic hypertrophy is a kind of artificial muscle growth. You train the muscle for no other reason than to visually increase its size by increasing the amount of fluid it can hold. But you do not increase the density of the muscle fibers. The problem is because you can't bypass this myonuclear domain. Why can't you bypass it? Because it says it's beyond which extra nuclei are donated by satellite cell. What does that mean to you in science? Because these myonuclei synthesize protein. If you don't have more of them, you can't synthesize protein no matter how much protein you eat. You understand me? So what happens? You are all eating a herbivore diet. None of you are all carnivores out there. You're all eating fucking grass and rice and potatoes and a bunch of weird shit and cookies and shit. And so sarcoplasmic hypertrophy is based on glycogen loading. Your muscle can load a lot of glycogen. So you misconstrued that for being muscle. Well, because he has got low body fat. He's an ectomorph. So if he loads a lot of this glycogen, he'll be popping all over the place because he has very little body fat. Hello? You wouldn't see it on a mesomorph or an endomorph because they have too much fat. You understand me? It'd just be like more weight they're carrying. But in his case, the muscles will pop and show. This artificial muscle growth is not growing through being on PEDs, Greg. Do you understand me? It's growing through sarcoplasmic hypertrophy, through glycogen loading. This is what he's not telling you. Everybody's faking it, right, Greg?
Does, but he doesn't have as much muscle as he once had.
This was me about 7 years.
Yeah, he doesn't have that sarcoplasmic muscle like he once had. That sarcoplasmic muscle drained. It went away.
Ago. 6'4".
Because he went away, and when he went away and took time off, that sarcoplasmic hypertrophy went away. You understand me? If he actually built real muscle, it would not go away. But he's not building muscle because myonuclear domain size limit. And he does have some muscle when he first came in untrained. I told you that. You bypassed it when you first came in when you were untrained. You did get a donation of these nuclei when you're untrained. Everybody gets them. And then you call him newbie gains. So he does have a slight bit of tiny gains, but the rest of his gains were sarcoplasmic.
And only weighing 50 kilos. I was not.
Because the body just takes on a new modality called sarcoplasmic because it can no longer support that domain. You understand me? It's not donating. It's not supporting that domain. So it takes on a life of its own. And because you're eating carbohydrates, it will absorb it because you're coming in constantly, chronically lifting like a crazy chronic lifter. You understand me? Doing these high volume exercises and you're getting what they call the pump. And if you're getting a pump, you don't get a pump on a carnivore diet, on a protein diet. You get a pump on a herbivore diet, which all of you are eating. Yes.
Healthy at all.
And so imagine, he was 6'4" and only 50 kilograms. That is not very massive. But he ended up joining the gym, trained intelligently, and put on a ton of muscle. And perhaps you might not think he had an amazing physique. Perhaps maybe even...
Trained intelligently and put on a ton of muscle. You could just be rowing your arms like an idiot, rowing a bunch of stuff in the gym. And you just put on muscle from rowing. See, think about this. When people are telling you that you're building muscle in the gym, well, what type of muscle do you build in a gym? Sarcoplasmic and inflammatory response muscles and some lactic acid. That's what you're building in a gym if they tell you you are building muscle in a gym. Now, how do you build real muscle? Well, it has to be done outside of the gym, but the problem with that, protein synthesis needs to exceed that breakdown. But one problem, you need to bypass myonuclear domain size limit because it has a ceiling limit during hypertrophic process. That hypertrophic process was when you were untrained and you came to the gym and then it reached the ceiling limit. Get it, man?
You don't. Perhaps you've been comparing yourself to Chris Bumstead and other social media influencers who are simply massive, but Joe Frazier...
Why do you think everybody's cheating, going on steroids, chasing this SARMs, this, that, a creatine and everything? Why do you think they're chasing that? Because it reached a ceiling limit during hypertrophic process. You understand me? And the only time you ever get it again is when you came in, you were untrained, and you got an influx of these nuclei, and that was the end of that domain. Again, it reached the ceiling limit. So it reached it at 15, and it only reaches ever again when you're untrained coming into a gym. And you all call it a newbie gain. I call it a ceiling limit, hypertrophic ceiling limit, like it's called in science. You understand me? Yeah.
Even with his physique right now, is far superior to the average person, and what he looks like right now for...
Nah, he looks like a skinny kid. And it looks like he reached that nuclear domain. I could tell. He's got just a little bit of muscle there, a little bit.
Most people would be the look of having trained for years. It's sad to see that he is in fact disappointed, that he doesn't feel he has enough muscle. When he first started training, he didn't feel he looked good enough. Perhaps
He doesn't have enough. He doesn't have anything. He's skinny ectomorph. What are you talking about?
Body dysmorphia. He took to the gym in the hope of building muscle, of which he did, and he did in spades, but it still was never good enough. Remember, no matter how much muscle you put on, if you compare yourself to other people, you're always going to find something wrong with you. It's a normal part of human behavior to want to improve, but when you do so...
Want to improve. He doesn't want to improve. He simply doesn't want to be skinny. That's his problem. Fat people want to be skinny, and skinny people want to be big. It's always going to be like that.
In an unhealthy level, or perhaps you resort to taking performance-enhancing drugs, this can set you up for a downward spiral for the rest of your life. If you ever take PEDs, I don't care if it's SARM, steroids...
In other words, I meant that fat people want to be skinny, and skinny people want to gain weight.
You name it, and you stop taking it, you're going to miss the way you once looked. It's going to be very difficult, and the temptation to continue doing what you're doing, it's going to be very strong. And so please, if you're not taking anything, I caution you, don't do it.
In fact, I was classed as severely underweight. I was the most insecure kid, and I just...
But yet he achieves that physique, and it's not nearly good enough.
I joined a gym. I had no idea what I was doing when I started. I was absolutely clueless. But regardless of all of this, I absolutely loved it.
And he took to the gym and...
Yes, he did.
Times in the last 6 months. And so, of course, he's going to lose some games. But remember this, in case you're wondering, when you...
You're not going to lose it if it's real.
Stop training, you don't suddenly lose all of those gains. If you...
Yes, you do. If they're fake sarcoplasmic gains, you'll suddenly lose them. That's why everybody's like, my gains are going. I have to keep up the gains. Because it's fake.
Put on that muscle in a natural environment, and you'll...
The problem is with these influencers, they don't want to tell you the truth that what you're building is fake gains. Yeah.
train, for example, 1/3.
Why do you think they have you on all these crazy diets, bulk diets and everything? A bulk is going to build you a muscle. How can a bulk build you a muscle? How can any of these weird things build you muscles? How can you get over the myonuclear domain size limit? A bulk doesn't get over it. SARMs doesn't get over it. Steroids don't get over it. Nothing gets over the myonuclear domain size limit. Only these myonuclei, and they have to be deposited by the satellite cell to get you over that nuclear domain. But it is beyond where it can donate any extra nuclei to that domain to support further muscle growth like it says there.
As much as you used to? 1/3. That's not nearly as much. We were training perhaps 6 days a week. Now you're training.
All you people are wasting your time in the gym, chronically lifting, trying to open a window for protein synthesis, damaging tissue in your body. And I'm not talking about micro damages. I'm talking about you perpetually damaging tissues in your body. You're in a damaged state, in a fibrotic damaged state, which is extremely bad. Inflammation, walking around, inflammatory response, constantly accelerated aging, and possibly getting cardiovascular disease. A bunch of things down the line. You're shrinking the satellite cell pool. That is even worse. That is shortening your lifespan. You're shortening telomeres. And you will be crippled. You will lose mass over time if you lose the satellite cell pool. It will lose its regenerative power. You won't even be able to regenerate. You'll become a piece of garbage in the end. Yes, this is horrendous.
Twice a week. You will not lose any of your gains. You will keep them all. It takes only 1/3 of what you did to build that muscle.
He's lying to you. He's lying through his teeth because he's opening his mouth.
It does to keep that muscle. And so the great news is Joe could have said, hey, I don't feel like training very hard anymore. I'm going to train twice a week. How often do you think I train? I only train 2 to 3 days in the gym, and I'm 48 years old, and I wasn't even that.
You're on drugs, Greg. Why do you keep showing yourself? Look at you, man. This is TRT. He's a liar, man. You're not on TRT. You're on real drugs, man. You're lying to everybody.
Natural. And do I look like I've lost all my gains? Do I look horrible?
You look like a guy on steroids, okay? For a cosmetic look, holding more of that glycogen in your muscle. These steroids, that's what they do. Testosterone holds glycogen in there because it doesn't bypass myonuclear domain size limit.
Horrible to you. Not only that, I'm doing a ton of cardio. And many people, they're scared to do cardio.
And another thing, even if you were to try to bypass some of it, your protein synthesis needs to exceed that breakdown. And if you don't do it properly in that one bout of this newbie gains, then you won't grow any muscles. You'll get very little, if anything, in exchange.
Oh, I'm going to lose all my gains. Well, think of it. I'm 48. I'm doing. Going to stop it.
You're 48.
Buddy.
All Canadian citizens no longer need to work. This was the announcement made by Elon Musk at a recent conference.
Incredible. Why is he feeling so bad about his body?
It sounds weird, but I kind of felt how I did 7 years ago. Like that super insecure, super skinny kid. And while this may sound...
Yeah, because you never built anything. You just felt secure because you had a little bit of weight on your body.
cliche, it sparked something
more. I want to improve on 100% natural.
See, think about it. Let's pop this one up. Hold on a second. Myocytic androgen receptor. This one's really good too. So check this out. So the lifting power that all these lifters have, myocytic androgen receptor controls the strength, but not the mass of the limb muscles. See that? Not the mass of the limb muscles. What controls the mass of the limb muscles? Well, I just showed you what controls that mass of that limb muscles. So we know that controls the strength. We know that this controls the mass. This will control that mass right here. Ceiling limit, nuclei, the satellite cell to support further muscle growth. The nuclei, they support that mass, and protein synthesis needs to exceed that breakdown, and that supports that mass. Protein and nuclei support that mass, not the myocytic androgen receptor. So you're taking steroids are not going to support that mass. What's supporting that mass is the nuclei, and I told you, protein synthesis needs to exceed this breakdown.
And you have certain times in the year where you train more or train less, it's not going to make a difference. You're not going to say, wow, I lost all my gains. You might lose at
Yes. It'd be fake gains you're losing.
max a couple pounds of muscle after several months of not training. Once you build the muscle in a natural environment, it's there to stay for the long haul.
The problem is you're not building it in a natural environment. Everything you're doing is unnatural. Your diet is artificial. Your lifting is artificial. Everything you're doing is artificial. What the hell are you talking about?
But if you resort to using PEDs and you cycle them and you stop training,
PEDs are artificial as well. It's all artificial.
you're going to lose a ton of stuff wrong with that. But what I would suggest, if he's trying to optimize his eating to eat 5 meals a day with protein, doing so can make it easy.
Yes, eat 5 meals a day with protein. That will that'll force the satellite cell to donate its nuclei. Yeah, sure, okay. Even though it says it's beyond where it can.
Easier to build muscle, and as far as protein goes, you all know 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, that is going to be sufficient.
Yeah, sure. 1 pound of body weight of protein, ... So why isn't it working for Joe Frazier? Why isn't it working for him? Why isn't it working for anybody? And why do you have to sell all these tablets to everybody and creatine everything, Greg? Because they can't bypass myonuclear domain size limit, and you don't want to share it with your viewers.
And he's eating 3,500 and you go back to it, it does that for weeks on end, perhaps around 8. And then all of a sudden,
Yeah.
healthy
sure.
would you be? And so remember, don't use performance-enhancing drugs without the advice and consent
Yes. Like you, Greg. Everybody's on drugs, yes.
of your doctor, and never do so.
Yes.
Then slowly, every workout after that, if you're not terribly sore, then you can go harder, then you can add more weight.
Yes. If you're not sore, add more weight. That'll get over the myonuclear domain size limit. But adding more weight, yes. Chronically lifting. Okay, yes.
Add more reps. And don't forget, this applies to both
Even though it says it's beyond, but no, you're going to get over with all these...
training and cardio. And so if you're
Yeah, sure, yeah.
perfect, you're good enough. You're good enough right now. There's nothing...
Yes, you're good enough. I'm out of here. Tell me what you think about that. Like, subscribe, support the channel. All his tablets and things and lifting and this and that and 5 meals a day and everything's going to get you over that. Yeah, sure. See you in the next one. Ciao.